The ultimatum. The Valdran Empire had conquered 47 star systems in less than a decade. Their warships were monuments to destruction, each one capable of glassing a planet in hours. Their soldiers were bred for war, standing 3 meters tall with exoskeletons that could crush steel. Their diplomacy consisted of a single word: submit. When they arrived at the edge of human space, the galaxy held its breath. Ambassador Thexrel stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Infinite Dominion, his 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation. Below him, through the viewport, hung Earth, a blue marble spinning peacefully in the void. He had delivered his ultimatum 3 standard days ago. The humans had until sunrise on their largest continent to surrender unconditionally. No response yet? He asked his communications officer. Nothing, Your Eminence. Complete silence. Thexrel's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Fear-induced paralysis. He had seen it before. Some species begged. Others tried to flee. A few attempted futile last stands. But silence was the sound of a civilization accepting its fate. Prepare the bombardment arrays, he commanded. At the designated hour, we will turn their capital cities to Your Eminence. Incoming transmission. Thexrel straightened finally. The groveling would begin. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, revealing not a government official or military commander, but a human female in casual clothing, sitting in what appeared to be a modest dwelling. She was eating something from a bowl and looked utterly unconcerned. Hi, she said, waving a utensil at the camera. You must be the Valdran Empire. Sorry for the delay, we've been kind of busy. Thexrel's claws dug into his command throne. You dare greet the might of Valdran with such disrespect? I am Ambassador Thexrel, voice of the Eternal Emperor. You will address me with, yeah, cool titles and all that. The human interrupted, taking another bite. Look, we got your message about surrendering. Really impressive ships you've got there. Very shiny, lots of guns. We're all super scared. The bridge crew exchanged confused glances. Her tone suggested anything but fear. We checked you out, she continued conversationally. 47 conquered systems in 9 years, 6 months, and, what was it? 14 days. That's actually pretty good. Not great, but solid B+ work. How dare. Here's the thing, though. She set down her bowl and leaned closer to the camera. We did some math. You've got approximately 11,000 warships in your fleet. Impressive, right? Except we counted the ones that actually showed up here. 342. Thexrel felt a cold sensation crawl up his spine. That number was classified. So we got curious, the human said. Where's the rest of your fleet? And more importantly, why would you send less than 3% of your forces to intimidate a species you've never fought before? That seemed, I don't know, statistically weird. She pulled up a holographic display beside her. Then we did what humans do best. We looked at your previous conquests. The Melvari? You sent 67% of your fleet. The Karathi Federation? 91%. The Silicate Collective? You sent everything. Every single ship. The bridge had gone deathly quiet, but for Earth, 342 ships and 1 very chatty ambassador. She smiled. You want to know what we think? We think you're not here to conquer us. You're here to gauge us. This is a probe, a test. You want to see what we're made of before you commit real resources. Thexrel's breathing had become labored. In 9 years of conquest, no species had ever deduced their strategy. The Valdran method was simple. Terrify your enemy into submission before they realized you were testing them. If they surrendered, you owned them without a fight. If they resisted, you learned their capabilities and returned with overwhelming force. But the humans had figured it out in 3 days. So here's our response to your ultimatum, the human said, standing up. No, we're not surrendering. We're not even taking you seriously. You can fire on our cities, but you'll find they've been evacuated to bunkers that your scans probably already revealed. You can land troops, but honestly, 300 ships isn't enough to occupy a planet of 8 billion people who are really annoyed that you interrupted their week. She walked toward the camera until her face filled the screen. But here's what's really going to happen, Ambassador. You're going to turn around and leave. You're going to go back to your emperor and tell him that humans aren't like your other conquests. We don't scare easily. We don't submit. And we definitely don't appreciate being used as guinea pigs. And if we refuse? Thexrel managed to rasp. The human's smile widened. Then we'll do what we do best. We'll improvise. The transmission ended. The improvisation ambassador Thexerel stared at the blank screen for a full 30 seconds before his second-in-command dared to speak. "Your Eminence, what are your orders?" Pride warred with pragmatism in Thexerel's mind. The human was right. This was a reconnaissance mission disguised as an invasion. But to retreat now after being called out so publicly would be unthinkable. The Valdren Empire did not back down, not ever. "We proceed as planned," he declared. "Target their largest population centers. Defensive fire only if they attack. I want them to watch as we—" Every screen on the bridge suddenly activated simultaneously. The human woman was back, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stood dozens of other humans in a massive room filled with equipment. "Hi again," she said cheerfully. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, by the way. Xenosociologist. These are my friends from various departments. Physics, engineering, computer science, psychology, comedy writing." "Comedy writing?" Thexerel sputtered. "Yeah, you'll see why in a minute. Anyway, you've got about 200,000 people watching this live stream right now across your fleet. We hacked into your communications grid about 4 hours ago. Nice encryption, by the way. Took us almost 20 minutes to crack." The bridge erupted in chaos. Officers frantically tried to sever external connections, but nothing worked. The human had administrative control over their entire network. "Don't bother," Dr. Chen said, watching their panic. "We're not here to sabotage anything. We're here to give your crew some information their leadership probably hasn't shared." She gestured to someone off-screen, and a holographic display appeared behind her, visible to everyone watching. "This is the Valdren Empire's expansion map over the past decade," she explained. "All those conquered systems? Notice anything interesting about them?" The display zoomed in, highlighting specific patterns. Every single species you've conquered was either pre-industrial or early space age. The most advanced ones had basic laser weapons and rudimentary shields. None of them had FTL communication networks. None of them had coordinated global governments. And absolutely none of them had access to their conquerors' military databases. She paused. "Until now." Thexerel's blood turned to ice. "See, humans have this thing about information," Dr. Chen continued. "We share it. Obsessively. In the 4 hours since we accessed your systems, we've copied your entire military database, your ship schematics, your tactical doctrines, your supply chain logistics, and, this is my favorite part, your personal correspondence." Ambassador Thexerel. The ambassador felt his legs weaken. "Should I read the one where you tell the Emperor that Earth looks like easy prey? Or the one where you describe humans as soft, slow, and psychologically fragile?" Actually, that second one really hurt our feelings. Laughter echoed through the human facility. Across the Valdren fleet, 200,000 crew members watched their ambassador's humiliation in real time. "But here's where it gets really fun," Dr. Chen said. "We've also been listening to your internal communications. Did you know that 68% of your crew doesn't actually want to be here? Apparently, mandatory military service isn't as popular as your propaganda suggests." New data appeared on the display. Chat logs, personal messages, and video recordings from Valdren soldiers expressing doubt, fear, and resentment about their missions. Private Zexlin from Deck 47. He misses his family. He's been deployed for 4 years straight. Captain Yorath on the Crimson Vengeance. She thinks this empire-building nonsense is bankrupting your civilization. And Flight Commander Relics. He's been writing poetry about how much he hates his job. More laughter, but this time it was tinged with something else. Sympathy, understanding. "We're not saying this to mock you," Dr. Chen said, her tone softening. "We're saying this because we understand. Humans have been exactly where you are. We've built empires. We've conquered neighbors. We've done terrible things because our leaders told us it was necessary." She stepped closer to the camera. "But then we learned something. We learned that cooperation is stronger than conquest. That diversity is stronger than dominance. That building something together is infinitely better than taking it by force." The room behind her filled with people of every ethnicity, age, and appearance, a visual representation of humanity's unity through diversity. "So here's our offer to the 200,000 Valdren watching right now. You don't have to do this. You don't have to die for an empire that treats you like disposable assets. Your ambassador is going to order you to attack us anyway because his pride won't let him retreat. But when he does, you have a choice." Dr. Chen's expression became fierce. "You can fire on a planet full of people who don't want to fight you. Or you can remember that you're not machines. You're living beings with families and dreams and poetry to write. And you can refuse. The transmission ended again, but this time Thexeral knew nothing would ever be the same. The decision. The silence on the bridge was suffocating. Thexeral stood frozen at his command station, staring at the blank screens that had just broadcast his humiliation to his entire fleet. Around him, officers avoided eye contact, their usual military precision replaced by uncertainty. "Your Eminence?" His second-in-command ventured quietly. "Orders?" "Orders." Yes. He needed to give orders. He needed to reassert control, to prove that the Valdrin Empire would not be mocked by a species of soft, primitive mammals who had barely left their own solar system. "All ships," Thexeral commanded, his voice tight. "Prepare to fire on coordinates Alpha 7 through Alpha 20. Maximum yield. I want those human cities erased in the first salvo." But nothing happened. "Did you hear me?" he roared. "Fire!" His weapons officer turned slowly, and Thexeral saw something in the soldier's eyes he had never seen before. Defiance. "I respectfully decline, Your Eminence." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. In the Valdrin military, refusing a direct order was punishable by immediate execution. Thexeral's hand moved to his sidearm, but before he could draw it, his tactical officer spoke. "I also decline," then his navigator. "As do I." "And I," said his communications officer. One by one, every officer on the bridge refused the order, not with violence, not with anger, just with quiet, firm rejection. Thexeral felt reality tilting beneath his feet. This was impossible. The Valdrin military was built on absolute obedience. 9 years of conquest without a single mutiny. But the humans had done in hours what no amount of firepower could do. They had made his soldiers think. "You are all guilty of treason," he whispered. "The penalty is death." "Then execute us," his second-in-command said, stepping forward. "Execute all of us. Execute the 200,000 crew members across this fleet who are refusing the same order right now. Execute everyone who listened to those humans and realized we're fighting a war that benefits no one but the Emperor and his inner circle." The ship's communication system crackled to life. Not an external transmission this time, but internal. "This is Captain Yorath of the Crimson Vengeance to all Valdrin vessels. I am standing down. I will not fire on Earth. I will not fire on any world again. If the Emperor wants conquest, he can come do it himself." Other voices joined hers. Dozens of captains across the fleet echoing the same message. The mutiny wasn't violent. It was simply everyone, everywhere, saying no at the same time. Thexeral sank into his command throne, a broken figure. In 9 years he had never failed. In 9 years he had never considered that failure was even possible. But the humans had shown his people something they had forgotten, that they had a choice. Another transmission appeared on screen. Dr. Sir. Chen again. But this time she wasn't smiling. She looked tired, relieved and sad all at once. "Ambassador Thexeral," she said quietly. "You should know that we've been monitoring your fleet's communications. We know what just happened. We know your crews are refusing to fight." She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "We're not celebrating. There's no victory in making people question their lives so deeply that they risk execution for their beliefs. But it was necessary. Because the alternative was a war that would have cost millions of lives on both sides." Dr. Chen glanced at something off-screen, then back at the camera. "Your crews are good people stuck in a bad system. They deserve better than to die for someone else's ambition. So here's what we're proposing. You turn your fleet around and leave. We keep everything we learned about your empire to ourselves. Think of it as mutually assured embarrassment. And in exchange, you tell your emperor that humans are too much trouble to conquer." She leaned forward. "Or if you prefer, you can stay. Not as invaders, but as guests. We'll share our technology, our culture, our really terrible coffee. We'll show you what we've built by choosing cooperation over conquest. And maybe, just maybe, some of your people will go home and start asking why your empire needs to be built on the suffering of others." Thexeral closed his eyes. Pride demanded he refuse. Honor demanded he fight. But wisdom, painful, humiliating wisdom, demanded he accept reality. The Valdrin Empire had lost this battle the moment they underestimated their opponent. "My crew," he said hoarsely. "The ones who refused orders. What happens to them?" Dr. Chen's expression softened. "That's up to you. But if I were you, I'd start listening to them. They just saved your life." The ambassador stood slowly, his body feeling ancient despite his relatively young years. He looked around the bridge at the officers who had defied him, seeing them clearly for the first time as individuals rather than tools. "Stand down all weapons," he ordered quietly. "Navigation, set a course back to Valdrin space. Communications, send a message to all ships. We are withdrawing." Relief washed across the bridge like a physical wave. "And prepare a second message," Thexeral continued, his voice growing stronger. "To the Emperor. Tell him that humanity is not a suitable target for conquest. They are too technologically advanced, too psychologically resilient, and too strategically unpredictable." He looked directly at Dr. Chen on the screen. "Tell him we have made a grave miscalculation, and that I recommend we never return to this region of space." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "Safe journey, Ambassador. And for what it's worth, I think you just made the bravest decision of your career." The transmission ended for the final time. As the Valdrin fleet began its long journey home, Captain Yorath sent one last message that rippled through all 342 ships. "To all crew, what we witnessed today is proof that strength is not found in weapons or fear. It is found in the courage to question, the wisdom to learn, and the compassion to choose a better path. The humans did not defeat us with firepower. They defeated us with truth. Remember this day. Remember that we always had a choice. We just needed someone to remind us." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen sat in her lab surrounded by her exhausted team. Someone handed her a cup of terrible coffee, which she accepted gratefully. "Do you think they'll really leave us alone?" her assistant asked. Sarah smiled, watching the Valdrin fleet's retreating signatures on her monitor. "For now. But word will spread. By the end of the month, every empire in this sector will know that humans don't play by the usual rules. Some will be intrigued, some will be angry, some will want to test us themselves. And when they come, then we'll improvise," Sarah said, echoing her earlier words to the ambassador, "because that's what humans do best." She raised her coffee cup in a weary toast to peaceful resolution through aggressive psychological warfare. Her team laughed and clinked their cups against hers. Outside the window, Earth continued its eternal rotation, spinning peacefully in the void, a blue marble that had just taught a galaxy-spanning empire a lesson they would never forget. The Valdrin had come to intimidate. Instead, they learned something far more valuable: that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or strength, but the simple, radical act of treating their enemies as people who deserved better than the roles assigned to them. And across the galaxy, in ships heading home to families they hadn't seen in years, 200,000 Valdrin soldiers began asking questions their empire had never wanted them to ask. The conquest had ended, but something far more dangerous to tyrants everywhere had just begun. Revolution doesn't always come with fire and blood. Sometimes it comes with coffee, live streams, and a woman who dares to tell you that you deserve better. And sometimes, that's enough.